Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to everyone watching this video. This is going to be an introduction to Arabic grammar, but perhaps not in the way that we are accustomed to, immediately beginning with various grammatical categories and trying to learn something as quickly as possible. I think to learn any subject, we need to first have an overview of what that subject is, a holistic, big picture approach. What is Arabic grammar at a deep, essential level, and what does it mean to study Arabic grammar? And by Arabic grammar, as I shall explain, I really mean the entire science of the Arabic language, the systematic study of the Arabic language. So what I'm going to speak about in this lecture is going to be general, it is universal, and so it can actually be applied to more subjects than just Arabic. It can be applied to learning other languages. It can be applied to learning other subjects. However, Arabic has a very fundamental importance in the hierarchy of knowledge because Arabic is a sacred language, and in a very deep sense, Arabic lies at the basis of the hierarchy of knowledge. It is like a fountainhead, and all the different sciences well forth from the Arabic science. You know, there's the idea that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a Nabiyul Ummi, that he was Ummi. Now, we sometimes translate that as unlettered. He did not know how to write. I do not think that's a good translation. The idea of being unlettered does not occur anywhere inside of this root of being ummi. I mean, the root ummi comes from the word right? Mother. And the deep meaning of this root, therefore, is an idea of generation, because a mother generates, she gives birth. In fact, in Arabic, doesn't just refer to one's physical mother. Any principle in reality, which is a generating principle, giving birth and giving life, is referred to as As is why in the Quran it speaks of Quran or Kitab, the mother of the book. The mother of the book is the archetype and source of the book itself. So to be Ummi is to be connected to this matriarchal principle, if you want to call it that. So to be Ummi, for the Prophet to have been Ummi, I think a better way to translate it is primordial. That he was connected to his primordial nature. The way that we think before we are taught a set of symbols. Because a set of symbols is ultimately man-made. And if you are thinking through a man-made set of symbols, it means that your mind is going to be processed according to that, according to someone else's system. But to be directly connected to language itself, to the source of language, and not to a human being's attempt to understand that language, that is to be primordial. And that means one can directly learn meanings from its source. So in this lecture, the keys to Arabic, I want to, God willing, allow us to open up in some capacity this deeper, primordial, metaphysical nature of the Arabic language. So the way I'll do this is I'll essentially talk a bit about each of the dimensions, going a bit deeper each time. Let us begin with what the Arabic language is. And we might say, okay, well, the Arabic language is the language spoken by Arabs. Of course, it becomes a bit circular because, well, what is an Arab? Who are the Arabs? Certainly, it's not a definition which applies today. Classical Quranic Arabic is not spoken as a native language by anyone. So we have to go all the way back and say in 7th century Arabia, those were the Arabs and that was Arabic. But again, why were they Arabs? What does that mean? And I think you can see that this becomes a bit circular, especially because the word Arabi literally just means Arabic, right? Like English, he is English. But the word English comes from the language English. Okay, maybe some languages, their name is taken from a place in the world, but not Arabic. There is no place in the world which is called Al-Arabiya. So what is Arabic? If the idea of being an Arab, of being Arabi, ultimately comes from this base meaning of the reality of Arabic, as if Arabic is the mother and the Arab is the son or daughter of this mother of the Arabic language. So we have to look at, well, what does Al-Arabiya mean? It comes from the root, Ain, Ra, Ba. What's interesting is that if you permute this root and you change the Ba and the Ra, you get Abara. Now, Abara has a meaning of crossing. And from this is derived I'tabara. I'tabara is, I mean, it's a very deep word, but one way to translate is perhaps to consider something. To consider a thing to be a thing. Conscious perception, if you will. So inside of this meta root, there's an idea of deep communication. There's an idea of conveyance. There's an idea, especially, of crossing a barrier. Another base meaning of abara is literally to cross. Abartu at-tariq. I crossed the path or the road. Because what is happening is that this Arabic language is not just the vehicle, but it is the reality of crossing the dimensions of being. When you speak, there is this metaphysical conveyance occurring. It's like a transformation of energy, like the electromagnetic spectrum. There's a communication going on at a deep level where one mode of energy is being transformed into another. That is the energy of intuition, of ideas, of thoughts, is being transformed into speech. And this occurs at multiple levels. In fact, before I speak these auditory words which are being conveyed and going through these electronic lines of communication and ultimately being conveyed to you, before I even move my tongue, there is a speech in my head. There's an internal speech. First, you are always speaking to yourself. We are always articulating our thoughts in words. That's an internal language, which is always happening before there's an external language. But going one level deeper, in this meaning of Arabiya, there's a very deep idea of uncovering something deep. The very root of Ain, this letter is a deep letter. It's coming from deep in the throat. Ain. One meaning of literally the word Ain is a deep spring. A source of water, but not just a source of water which you find easily at the surface, a deep source of water. A deep, hidden, underground source of water which is coming up. So Al-Arabiya is coming forth from these ayun, these a'yan, these well springs and essences. She is communicating these essences. You have the verb a'raba, from whence we have i'rab. I'rab literally just means to disclose, to reveal, أظهر, to bring to light. So Arabic brings to light what is hidden. She uncovers and unveils these deep realities. She conveys what is true. Before I continue, I think there was a question which I'm happy to take. Do you want to?
Yeah, Faizan, sorry. The screen was kind of off, but that was my problem on my end. So I fixed it. No
Okay,
problem.
fantastic. No worries, no worries. I'll continue. And so there's a few dimensions of this Arabic. This metaphysical Arabic language I'm speaking about has multiple levels. Now, often people will call Arabic, لغة العرب. This is quite common. The tongue of the Arabs. But لغة العرب, the tongue or the language of the Arabs, is not the same thing as اللغة العربية, the Arabic language. Because, as I said, well, who are the Arabs? Those people who speak Arabic. So it doesn't make sense to define the Arabic language as that's spoken by the Arabs when the Arabs are defined as the sons and daughters of the Arabic language. But the reality here is that, well, to access this deep metaphysical language, to access the language of God, the language of the Quran, we have to go through the earthly path. There is an earthly pilgrimage before the heavenly ascension, the Isra before the Mi'raj. This earthly journey is to understand the earthly embodied Arabic language. Really, the Arabic language is a heavenly language. But there's a meeting point of heaven and earth, where the heavenly language descends and comes into contact with the earthly plane. In fact, I can use this, right? We usually think of, and it's true, that heaven is here and earth is here. And, we have the peoples of the earth, the different languages, the colors, the civilizations, all the variety of life on earth which God has created. And there are those things heavenly and spiritual, those things in perfect unity and harmony and unison. But the ideal revelation of wahi, of nuzul, is that there's an axis coming down from heaven to earth. So this is like a bending of heaven. You might have heard the mystical narration that God descends to the lowest heaven in the last part of the night. What does that mean for God to come down? It's not that God comes down, but of course God is not in a place. God does not come and go. But if God is in heaven, if you understand heaven to be that which is spiritual, that which is not embodied, but that which is pure meaning and existence, for God to come down to the lowest heaven really is for heaven to come down to the lowest heaven. It's for the divine singularity, God on high. Like if there's a hierarchy of being, which ultimately is what this is, right? The very singularity and oneness of all of being, that descends because being itself is descending to earth. The entirety of heaven is coming down to earth. That is what revelation is. See, as I drew this, the axis, revelation is coming down to earth, and heaven itself is accommodating it. And over here, there's a meeting point. That meeting point is the cosmic pole of the Kaaba, the spiritual center unto which we orient ourselves. That meeting point is the meeting point of the Prophet and all the prophets. those human beings whom were chosen perfectly convey the word of God. Those human beings who were become the axis which spans all of creation, which bridges together the lowest earth with the highest heaven. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه إلى أسفل السافلين. That we created man in the أحسن تقويم, and the meaning of taqweem is a qawam and here. You have been upright and standing. The human essence is utterly upright. It is high, it is lofty, it is spiritual. The human spirit was breathed into us by God. The ruh is something spiritual. The human being is something spiritual. But then this highest, most lofty principle was cast down into the lowest of the low, the lowest earth. We were given this body. We were given this body which, has all of these physical natures which are not seen as lofty and divine. We need to blow our noses and sneeze and pass gas and use the bathroom. I mean, it's paradoxical. Something so heavenly has been put into something so base. But that's because we can bridge the two. The human being can be heavenly and angelic, but also animal, and he can bridge the two together. That is this meeting point. But in particular, the Arabic language on earth is this meeting point, where this Lughat al-Arab, these people chosen by God, were given a heavenly language. And so the cosmic tongue of Arabic, the language that people speak in heaven, the language of the angels, the language of God, is conveyed here. Of course, it's not exactly the same thing. Does God speak in physical syllables? No, but what it means is that the physical language of Arabic perfectly reflects the metaphysical meanings of High Arabic. This Arabic is not this Arabic, but this Arabic is an image of that Arabic. And that Arabic lives inside of, well, not just here, but in the heart, in the soul, in the spirit. And the language of God has no multiplicity because God is one, has no sentence, no words, no letters, but the language of God is like a pure, infinite music, energy, an infinite melody, a reverberation, pure oscillation. These are the ma'ani, which in Arabic is meanings. They are the meanings of all things. So this is what we mean by Arabic. And I appreciate this might be a bit abstract, but the idea is that if we are making an intention to learn and study Arabic, that intention has to reach all the way to the divine singularity. We are not just intending to learn the earthly Arabic. Why do you need to know the earthly tongue? Ultimately, it's to speak Arabic, to seem clever, to seem erudite, to be cultured. Okay, one can be all these things, but however, that's not the noble intention. The true noble intention of learning Arabic is beyond the earthly tongue. I mean, what does it matter? We live and we die here. But what is eternal is the spirit. What is eternal and what endures will be what we learn of the divine Arabic. Because it is the soul which speaks that divine Arabic, whereas the body merely speaks an earthly Arabic or an earthly whatever it speaks. This is what we deign to commune with, to know God, to learn Arabic, so to know God. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll just go through a very brief tour of the different dimensions of Arabic and what it means to learn. Let us begin with the linguistic dimension, the actual learning of the Arabic language, learning Arabic grammar, learning Nahu and Sarf. Well, first and foremost, let me say and let me emphasize that by grammar, we really mean the totality of all the sciences of language. Grammar is the scientific study of language. We are trying to learn this, the mind of God, ultimately. That is what Arabic is. That is much, much more than just learning one or two sciences or taking one or two books. This Arabic, if you are forming a picture of what it is a mind, really, just to build your mind. Learning Arabic is to learn an entire cosmology, to learn a new metaphysics, to learn a new way of conceiving and perceiving the world. It is an ocean of meanings and realities. To learn Arabic is like drinking an ocean, and becoming utterly transformed by that ocean. If you learn Arabic, you will not be the same person at the end of it. That is something I can guarantee you and promise you. When you learn Arabic truly from this perspective, you will literally be utterly transformed. Year by year, month by month, you will change. The way that you see things will change. There was actually an excellent movie, Arrival. It was Danny Villeneuve's movie before he did Dune, or one of them. It's one of the topics of the movie is the idea of language and how language shapes reality. I won't spoil it too much, but I'd actually highly recommend people to watch that movie if they haven't. And then afterwards, meditate upon what learning Arabic might mean. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. That learning the Arabic language, it's like it can literally open up a new dimension of perception, of perceiving space-time at a deeper level, perceiving spiritual realities deeper in the physical world. Because of this Arabiya, tu'aribu, it's going to unveil deeper levels. It's more than just a physical language, more than just a tonguely language. This Arabic language can be learned by the fingers and the tongue and the hands, by the arms and the legs. Every nerve in your body can learn the Arabic language. When you pray, when you decline yourself in sujood and ruku', when you hold the postures of the prayer, that is also a language. The language of the body, a language with the hands are speaking. Right? It says in the Quran that the hands will speak unto God in the day of judgment. The hands and the feet will speak and testify. And people ask, wherefore can the hand speak? But the hand is speaking now. Every nerve in your body is speaking. Its very communication is that electrical impulse according to the synapses, which sparks movement. All movement is communication. This Arabic language is everywhere. It's an energy frequency. Every nerve in the body can speak this language. Every atom in the universe can speak this language. That is what learning Arabic means. It is a complete and total cosmological singularity and transformation of your categories of perception at every possible physical, noetic, metaphysical, spiritual level that you have. So now, how does this fit together? mean, how can possibly learning Nahu and Sarf open up your perception? Well, it can if you understand the science or sciences of the Arabic language correctly. It's much more than Nahu and Sarf. It is an entire diagram, an entire hierarchy of sciences, where you go down and down and down and deeper. But not just a hierarchy, it's also a circle, right? It's holistic. We like to use this word a lot, holistic knowledge. Every part is related to every other part. As part of learning Arabic, we have, I won't go into too much detail here, perhaps in another lecture we can break this down more, but you have the science of phonology, the meanings of words and how to, of sounds, sounds of Arabic letters, what they mean, how they are correctly pronounced. That is really called tajweed, right? Ilm al-tajweed is what we should translate in English as phonology. You have the science of etymology, very important. How the meanings of words are derived, al-ishtiqaq. The science of lexicology, before you go into al-nahu wal-sarf, well, you need to learn words. What is the point of learning abstract grammatical rules if you don't even know any words upon which to apply them? Nahu is about forming syntactical structures, putting words together. Okay, well, I need to know the words first. Sarf is about learning how words change, inflection, both conjugational and derivational. But again, before you can even really do sarf, you need to have at least some basis, matan means basis of the language built up. So really, this is the first science, I would say. Studying lexicology, building up a healthy vocabulary before proceeding to these. You have rhetoric, or ilm al-balagha, or ulum al-balagha, because there are multiple sciences. This is a huge, huge science. I won't go into it. You have al-ma'ani, ilm al-ma'ani, ma'ani al-nahu, a deep science of you have grammatical structures. But what are the meanings of grammatical structures? Because Arabic is an inflected language, anything you would like to say, you have at least 5 different ways of saying it, if not more. Now, these different 5 ways of saying the same thing are not the same. Every different form and permutation has its own particular modality of meaning, according to which the intended meaning declines. Really, here we have an entire science of linguistics, mathematical linguistics, semantics, everything you can think of. There's another science called fiqh al-lugha. Fiqh, the fiqh of lugha, which is really deep philosophy of language and a deeper take on some of these other sciences. There's a science of poetics. There is a science of literary criticism and literary theory, the science of metaphors and symbolisms. And then the sub-sciences of the Arabic of the Quran and so on. As you can see, this linguistic dimension is already something utterly colossal, which you can spend lifetimes and lifetimes poring over without even apprehending but a drop of its ocean, as we have done. The great scholars have spent lifetimes on each of these particular sciences, and we are the inheritors of this great tradition. And unless you see how colossal this is, you will not appreciate it. And even most students of the Islamic sciences, I believe, do not truly appreciate how great the Arabic language is, and how deep and vast it goes, and how utterly labyrinthine and saturnine its vast mindscape of sciences is. But that is the linguistic dimension. There is then, really inside of that, there is the mathematical. Now, people ask, what is the connection of mathematics to theology and to philosophy and to language? In high school, you do calculus and trigonometry, and that's completely divorced to this, right? Well, no, because what is mathematics? Really, by mathematics, we mean the science of structure. What we study in mathematics is not meaning, not interpretation, not hermeneutics, but we study structure, space, time, functions, numbers, shape, and grammar. Really, this is the structure of language. In other words, we can call all of this, we can call the learning of Nahu and to be the mathematics of Arabic. And in fact, it is. I was going to say it is like Arabic. No, I mean, it's like mathematics. No, I correct that. It is mathematics. A very deep level. I mean, I'm a mathematician myself. These are really called the sciences which are the foundations of mathematics. And they are very, very closely related to linguistics, especially to mathematical and theoretical linguistics. If anyone is familiar with Noam Chomsky and his work, well, he really took, not even very hard, just some basic set theory and algebra in particular, and he applied that to linguistics. And it created an entire revolution in the field of linguistics. But Arabic grammar has that inbuilt to it. In fact, Noam Chomsky, he got his ideas from the study of Hebrew, a Semitic language. But I believe while he was studying Hebrew, he studied Arabic. So the connection is right there. I truly do believe that the only way he was able to see that connection between language and mathematics was because he was studying mathematical languages, in particular Arabic. Hebrew, not as much. Hebrew is mathematical, but it's not as complex or sophisticated as Arabic. But there is a very deep mathematical dimension learning Arabic. If you are good at mathematics, you will be good at grammar. If you are not good at mathematics, get good at mathematics. That's honestly the easiest way to say it. Because I cannot stress this enough. Learning Arabic grammar is mathematical. There is no way around that. You have to be a mathematician of language to learn Arabic. And I don't mean that just by being very methodical and calculating. That's not what maths even is. It's about being very systematic in thought, having a very powerful abstract mind, being able to see the bigger picture, being able to synthesize, being able to draw vast connections, synthesize huge bodies of information, and build absolutely pristine, organized networks of information and mind palaces in your brain and in your mind. But yes, we'll speak more about this when we actually go into some of the language. Particularly with sarf, you have the sarf tables, right? So the idea of a table is already mathematical because it's a geometrical illustration of a pattern of meanings. But we'll speak much more about this. Going a bit deeper, we have the logical dimension. And again, I would go back and emphasize that in this hierarchy of the Arabic sciences, logic is an extremely important part. Logic is a science that you must study alongside these other sciences. You will not be able to actually understand Nahu without logic. You cannot even begin studying Balagha without logic. We might call Arab a meta language in mathematics and computer science. There's an idea of a meta language. For example, if you are a programmer, you are programming in Python or whatever, which is a code, is a language, but you don't think in Python. You think in English. In fact, even on the computer, I mean, this is not my specialty area, but I believe that you've got a language like Python, but it's being built upon a deeper interface. There's underlying deep level languages. There's I can't remember what it's called, I think compiler language or something like that, but there's the language which generates the user interface itself. I mean, sorry, the operating system, way deeper than the user interface. There's a language which is sat directly in the motherboard of your PC, in the CPU. There's actually a hierarchy of languages. You build a language, so to speak, at a more complex level in another language. Even in English, you've got just normal English, but inside of that, you've got academic English. And so on. Now, what is amazing is that to speak about a language, usually I must create a new language. For example, in English, I want to speak about grammar. I say, he sat there. Right, all of these things are inside of English. But now to speak about this, I have to say that he is a pronoun. I must say that sat is a verb in the past tense. And in fact, let's go even more archaic and say is a preterite verb. Down is I think over here would be an adverb. And then you have to say, okay, well, what's the relationship of down to sat? You might say it is something like a verbal complement or an adjunct in the verb phrase. Right, I won't go too much of all of this stuff. Okay, but what I mean is that pronoun. When do you ever use the word pronoun in normal English? Or noun for that matter? I don't say what is your noun, I say what is your name. But we don't call this a name, we call this a noun. When do I ever say the word of verb? What verb did you do this morning? Even the verb just comes from verbum in Latin, which means word. But it doesn't mean word in English, it means verb. Preterite, no one has ever even heard of this, unless you've gone very deep into 20th, 19th century grammar. Adverb again. Like, you see where I'm going. These are not words. This is not English. The meta language, to speak about English, is a new language created from French and Latin roots, putting it together. It's a meta language. I'm not really using English to speak about English, even though I might claim that. In Arabic, the meta language that you use to speak about itself is Arabic, pure and simple. You don't call a name a noun. You call a name a name. And you call a verb, really, you call an action an action. Ism, fi'l, harf. They mean exactly what it sounds like. It's actually astoundingly simple and elegant and beautiful. That Arabic is her own meta-language. This goes into self-reflexivity and the idea of self-reference, which I won't go into now, but even the idea of Kitab, the mother of the book. Okay, but the book is the mother, because the book, the Quran, is the mother of all of existence. It is the prototype upon which God built the heavens and the earth. إنما أسست السماوات والأرض على قل هو الله أحد. That the heavens and the earth were established upon the word that قل هو الله أحد. Say that He, God, is one. So the mother of the book is the book, but the book is the mother. So there's like what seems like a paradoxical self-reference, but it's not, because the absolute principle must be its own principle, because there cannot be anything above it. The Arabic must be her own language. She is her own meta language. That is what Arab is really doing. I won't go into this too much here, but you can break this down. With, even if you take the first verse of Surah Al-Fatiha, in logic, we would say that, well, Alhamdulillah, this is a definite noun, right? Their praise. The meaning of the definiteness here is istighraq, which translates to all. Alhamdu really means kullul hamdi, every type, form, manifestation of praise, in every space, in every time, in every manner, in every way, according to every possible subject who can praise, and every possible tongue, with every possible object of praise. All of that is unto God alone. The very essence of praise is unto God. So really, this is a universal statement. It is a singular statement. It is to God alone. There is no word for is in Arabic, but we might speak about isnad, means predication. You have the subject, you have the predicate, but now you have what is the exact relationship between the subject and the predicate, because there are many ways the subject and predicate can be related. That is the wajhul isnad. This really comes in quite high level balagha. Just inside of this, there's hidden structural meanings about how, as I said over here, there's the meaning that every praise, kullul hamd, is there. Between these two words, there's a meaning that it is unto God alone. That all praise and the very essence of praise is unto God. But saying all praise and the essence of praise are two separate things which require two different modes of predication. Both of those modes of predication are there. How I can keep going on and on and on and on. This is just the first sentence of Surah Al-Fatiha. I could fill the entire board with just mathematical formulae expressing these relationships. You have this logical dimension of Arabic, very much related to the mathematical dimension. All of this stuff is expressed in much, much, much more detail. But let's leave that there, otherwise our brains will explode.
Sorry.
Is there a question?
No, Fazan, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Okay. We have the theological dimension. I'm almost wrapping this up. We'll get into questions fairly soon. All I'll say here is that if you study Islamic theology, I don't know what experience you've had so far, but it can be very complex. It can kind of seem like a mess sometimes because there's so many different opinions and schools, and they're debating about everything you can think of about the divine essence and its relationship to the names. And if you deeply understand Arabic grammar is the foundation of theology. All of Islamic theology and philosophy comes back to Arabic grammar. In fact, all of Greek philosophy, all of Aristotle's works begins with his organon. His organon begins with his category. His categories is just Greek grammar. So Greek, Arabic, all of philosophy begins in grammar. also relating to even what Kant was doing, Immanuel Kant. He was essentially, in the spirit of Aristotle, arguing that, like a computer, right? If you have a language of consciousness, there must be a deep and irreducible language which generates the operating system of consciousness. And that language is the categorical structure of the mind. And that categorical structure of the mind is grammar. But really, Aristotle was saying it far before Kant and before Aristotle, many other people. But what's amazing is that in theology, we have these four essential, I don't want to say dimensions, but hypostases, you can maybe even use that word, of divinity. That by God, we ultimately mean the divine essence. That, like in English, we say that. I think there might be a connection. But the thatness, the pure aseity of anything is its essence. That it is. But God has names. God has meanings. God is merciful. But God is also retributive. God is clement, but he is also just. God is vast and glorious and infinite and sublime, and he's also gentle and beautiful. God is great, and God is also subtle. These are the sifats, the divine attributes. But really in Arabic, sifa, if you have studied some grammar, just means adjective. That we may see as the damir, huwa. That every sifa, every adjective, sits inside of a noun. The blue sky. Well, the thing is the sky. Blueness is a reality which lives inside of the sky. God is one. God is one, yet he has many names. And one might say, well, okay, how can that be the case? How can God have 99 names and he is one? Well, how can the sky be blue and also cloudy at the same time? Yet, there's no problem with that, is there? How can the cup be both blue and it's also this shape, and it's also shining, and also I can drink from it? But it's just one cup, is it not? So each thing does have infinitely many adjectives to describe it, yet it is the one thing that it is. If you have just understood this alone, you understand one of the deepest dimensions of Islamic theology. And you can study theology for 10 years, and you might not have understood what I just told you. But it's just that. Just understand the relationship of a word to its adjectives. And that's the knowledge of God. God is one, and he has infinitely many attributes. These attributes simply describe who and what he is. They are just names of reality itself. But the reality is one. And actually, if you think about this, this is a proof that there must be a one form, because everything is a name, is it not? Even the cup, what it is, it's a name for some part of existence. But every name must name something. This cup itself has to be naming something deeper than what it is. All of these names which describe the various facets of existence come back into one central point, which is existence. And that is God, pure being. He who is by and unto and of himself, through whom all other things are. And I think I'll leave that there. I can speak more about the divine names and divine actions and how it all relates together. But the point here is just to realize that theology and everyone should study at least some theology if you'd like to truly study the Islamic sciences. But the pathway to deeply understanding theology is to understand Arabic. In fact, theology is a dimension of the Arabic language. Almost done here. Now we get very deep. It says in Surah Yusuf, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وكذلك يجتبيك ربك ويعلمك من تأويل الأحاديث ويتم نعمته عليك. Even thus thy Lord God shall choose thee unto himself, and he shall teach thee the interpretation of things, and shall he complete his blessing unto thee. Particular, we have this. يعلمك من تأويل الأحاديث. Ta'wil literally means to bring something back to its root, principle. Comes from the word awwal. Most people know what awwal means. That which is first. Ta'wil, awwala. The verb is awwala. Awwala means to make awwal. The Arabic language is ta'wil. The Arabic language brings things back to their principles. As I said, every name has infinitely many manifestations, right? If we think of beautiful things, if I immediately look out of my garden, I see flowers, I see trees, I see clouds, I see the sky. Infinitely many beautiful things. All these forms and structures unto which the name of beautiful applies. But there's one name, there's one reality of the name itself, which applies to all of these different beautiful things. Now that is the reality of beauty. And the reality of beauty is God. Therefore, God is that single reality, the single absolute transcendental reality and meaning, which names all things. That is what we mean when we say, La ilaha illallah. There is no ilah, there is no singularity, but the one absolute singularity, Allah, God himself. That very formula, La ilaha illallah. I mean, if we were to perform that mathematical reading of the verse according to its mathematical dimension, we would see the mathematical proof and necessity of Tawheed. If we were to read the verse according to its linguistic and logical dimension, we would again see those very logical meanings of Tawheed. We can read it now here according to its metaphysical dimension, as we are doing. So do you see how all of these dimensions of the Arabic language are dimensions of reading anything? I was going to say reading an Arabic word. No, everything is an Arabic word, right? Kun fayakun. Everything which yakun, which is the word kun, which God spake unto it. This is that metaphysical dimension of the Arabic language. That by her, we can proceed and convey from the outward and to the inward, and see the meanings and realities inside of forms and structures. And that's Tawheed. That is a spiritual experience. If we say that I want to have a mystical experience, I want to see God. I want to go out into my garden and I want to see God. That is possible. It is possible through Arabic, possible through the Quran, it's possible through this lived dimension of the path. We can see God if we see his reality inside of things. If we see the beautiful form, but we see the reality of beauty inside of the form, that is what it means to see God. If we see everything which occurs before us and unto us, but inside of its form, within its structure, we can perceive the reality of it. And the only reality is the reality of God. That is a spiritual experience. That is all of spiritual experience. And this is learning Arabic, again, not just on a cognitive level of learning Arabic grammar, but imbibing the meanings of the Arabic word at every possible level of our existence. That is what it does. And last, we speak, or at least allude to, the mystical dimension of Arabic. That really at the crown and apex of all the sciences of Arabic and all the sciences themselves. And actually all sciences become Arabic sciences once you know Arabic. The deepest science is that science which speaks about the deepest things. Those things which are deepest. If you think about language, right, what is deepest? You have sentences, you have beautiful poetry. But poetry is made from words. But words are made from letters. That which is deepest are the Arabic letters. And if we think about what a letter is, really a letter like lam or alif. If I say, for example, بعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, alif lam, what is that? 3 letters, but each letter is the breath. It's the breath, right? But each letter is the pure unity of the breath, expressed in its own form. It's very mysterious. How can there be different letters? It's just one breath. It's nothing but this. That is the deepest mystery of creation. That God created by his breath. Nafas al-Rahman, the breath of God. All things which we see before us are but the breath of God. But the breath of God congeals, crystallizes into different forms. Forms physical, forms spiritual, forms immaterial. Just like a breath can congeal into the different letters. As the Quranic surah begin in these haruf. Al-huruf al-muqatta'at are the beginning letters. One analogy I heard is that it is like splitting the atom. Usually, a particle is not found by itself. It's always found in an atom. But in certain conditions of incredibly high energy, the atom itself splits, and individual particles, electrons and protons and neutrons will exist at least for a brief moment in time. Those are like these beginning letters in the Quran. The atom is being split. Reality is literally shaking apart and splintering because of the infinite weight of what is coming down from heaven. I go all the way back here, right? But when the Arabic revelation is coming down, the earthly language is going to shatter apart under its weight. In that breakage, in that mystical fracture, there is a deep mystical science of the letter, ilm al-huruf. There is a mystical science of numbers, علم الأرقام, like letterism, like numerology, Pythagoreanism. But I obviously caution that, I'm not speaking about anything you might find on the internet, professed by whoever is doing whatever. I mean, these are not sciences which you can speak aloud. It's impossible. What's the meaning of Alif Lam Mim? It's impossible to know in words. However, it's possible to know it in the heart. These are mystical sciences, ilmun ladunni, that God gives unto whomever he chooses. This is the mystical science of God. As I put here in the definition, this is to commune with the oneness of God directly in a pure unity and mystical apprehension, a pure, holy ecstasy, where one has become utterly dissolute in the oneness of God, where his ego identity and the multiplex structure of his existence simply dissolves in the pure unity of God. Ultimately, to study the Arabic language is to aim and to ken this very area of divinity, to know God himself, and therefore to realize the reality of divinity, to therefore realize the pure reality of servanthood in the self. Because that's happiness. And that is all felicity and all success, is to know thyself and to live according to oneself. So I end this lecture here, and I ask God that he accepts of us this learning, that he teaches us from himself these Arabic letters, this Arabic tongue, that he pours into our hearts the mystical knowledge of unity, the knowledge of the Quran, the knowledge of every verse, every letter. Allahumma Rabbana zidna ilma, Allahumma allimna min ladunka ilman, waj'alna ubbadan liwajhika mukhlisin mukhbitin. ألهمنا في قلوبنا بالرشد وأوحي إلينا بما توحين من باء الغيب علمنا ربنا وضاعف لنا علومنا وأثر علومنا أعمالا صالحة لوجهك الكريم يا مولانا يا ربي آمين.